Hello, Cinemassacre fans, horror fans, and Dracula fans. This is James Rolfe.
And this is Mike Matei, and we're doing a Dracula commentary.
Dracula is such a famous movie, but I feel like it might kind of be lost on younger generations. And I feel like it is a flawed movie. It's definitely not perfect by any means.
That is true.
But there are a lot of funny parts, but there's also a lot of really like chilling parts. It's a very chilling movie, and I feel that I hope this video it's not a video, it's just audio.
Yeah, just audio. Rifftrax. Well, I think the first time I saw this movie, the problem is that it's a very slow movie.
It was one of the first. It's actually probably the oldest surviving sound horror movie.
Yeah, and it's like because it's coming right off of the silent era, and it's one of the first.
Very little music.
Yeah, very little music because it's coming off of the silent era, so it's kind of
very quiet.
Yeah, very quiet, but it gives it a lot of atmosphere, and I think that's one of the things that makes it creepy. Is that the fact that there's so much silence in it.
Yeah, it really is a creepy movie if you're in the right mindset for it. And we're not going to help with that too much. I think you'll have to be on your own and watch it without us sometime. Todd Browning was the director, who also directed Mark of the Vampire with Lugosi. There's a lot of great scenery in this movie, and a lot of that is all glass painting. In the book, it's Jonathan Harker, but they changed him to Renfield in this movie.
That's right. A lot of his part is played pretty much by Jonathan Harker is in this movie.
Yeah, that's weird.
But most of the stuff that's supposed to happen to Jonathan Harker happens to Renfield.
I felt that always kind of made more sense because Renfield is always Dracula's like assistant, his like slave or whatever, and I feel like it kind of made sense that when Renfield went to the castle himself, Dracula did something to him to put him under his power.
Yeah.
I always feel like this here is the Bates Motel, or like this was where it was, because it's that same kind of composition. You got that hill where the house sat.
The house would be up there where that cross is, maybe.
Yeah, and on the right, like this little inn. Like I feel like that's where the Bates Motel, because this is a Universal backlot. It's got to be.
Yeah, that's true. When this movie was made, Bela Lugosi actually only made $500 a week for 10 weeks when he made this, which was $5,000 total is the amount of money he made for doing this movie, which is crazy to think that's all he made and he was the star of the movie.
They never raised his pay, really. Like Universal kind of gave him the shaft, And this guy, I love this guy with the mustache here. The first time I ever heard somebody make fun of this guy was in the Mel Brooks movie, Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a very good movie, but it was funny to see them spoof some of the things that happened.
Count Dracula, the castle?
Even though there is a lot of silence in this movie, there's a score by Philip Glass, which is on the DVD as like an alternate track. And I think it was cool that they did that as an experiment, but I think the original movie without the soundtrack works a lot better.
And by the way, Dracula's Castle, in case anybody doesn't know, is a real place. You can actually go to, Vlad Tepes.
Glassbank.
Yeah,
Tepes or whatever. There's actually two real Dracula castles. There's one that was the one that Bram Stoker based the novel off of, and that's also used as like a gift shop, and I guess they encourage people to go and visit. But then there's another castle, which was literally a castle that Vlad Tepes actually had.
The Spanish version of this often gets credited for a lot of the tracking shots and interesting camera angles. But this, as you just saw,
Spanish one's superior.
Yeah, the Spanish one technically is, but this movie does have shots like that. It has a lot of tracking shots and stuff.
And
so here's another one. There he is.
Just to say that a lot of people feel that the beginning of the movie is the strongest, and it goes downhill.
Blood coming off the side of that?
Yeah, I don't know, to tell you the truth. That the movie kind of goes downhill after the Transylvania scenes. In a way, that's true, but I feel like the rest is good as well.
And actually, the first time I saw this, I didn't even realize that was Lugosi. But then when I saw it again later, I was like, oh my god, why is he in the coach? It just didn't make any sense to me. It was very strange.
Yeah. I always felt that Renfield maybe did recognize him because the way he looks at Dracula later on when he's in the castle is kind of like
a double take.
See you? Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that they did acknowledge it, but it's very subtle.
Here is the shot of them approaching the castle, and the upper half of it is painted on a glass. The lower part of it is actually a real road. And that lower part, that part of it that is real, is actually the Vasquez rocks.
About Vlad Tepes, one thing, like Stoker already had Dracula outlined before he based it off of Vlad Tepes, so he used him as like a backdrop. But I saw on a documentary on the History Channel that supposedly someone excavated Vlad Tepes' tomb in 1931, and supposedly they found an empty grave at like no bodily remains. I don't know why it was 1931. Like I never heard it mentioned along with the movie. Like, was it because of the movie they excavated it, or So this is actually the same stage, I think, where they filmed the Riddler's lair in Batman Forever.
Really?
And like lots. I mean, it's probably crazy how many movies they actually filmed on that same spot. But that's what they said on the backlot tour. And the Spanish version, in case anybody doesn't know, it's a completely different movie, but it uses a whole Spanish cast, and they use the same sets, same script, everything, but it's like a different movie. It's the same movie, but a different movie.
Yeah, I would say I prefer this version because it has Lugosi, but actually, basically, to make a long story short, I like both versions. The Spanish version is great for its own reasons, and this is great for its own reasons.
Like, there were earlier Dracula films than this. Like, obviously, a lot of people know that there was the 1922 Nosferatu.
Right.
But before that, not very often, but a lot of people, like some people acknowledge that there was a 1921 Hungarian film.
Really?
And it's just called The Death of Dracula. And then there's only one source that I know of. There's a 1920 Russian film, apparently, and it was just called Dracula. And the only time I've ever heard it mentioned was in the vampire book, the Encyclopedia of the Undead by J. Gordon Melton. In that, he just listed as Dracula, but he also lists the 1921 Hungarian version as Dracula.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's the only place I heard of it, so I almost wonder if it doesn't exist.
Maybe it's like a lost film.
Yeah,
or
they're
something.
Definitely lost. Like the first two Draculas, if that one exists, are lost.
Mm-hmm.
Then Nosferatu, the third one, was apparently, like for a long time, people thought it was lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one made in Germany by F.W. Murnau.
Right.
And so technically that would make this the fourth Dracula. Although it's very easy to...
This is Dracula 4.
Yeah, it's like usually you'd say this is the
Dolph
original
Lundgren?
Dracula. Excellent, that line.
Excellent, yeah. Well, that's like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, it probably came off of that.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. You think so?
Or maybe. I know that Paul Williams from The Phantom of the Paradise, which is another Brian De Palma movie from the 70s. It's another horror movie. It's kind of like Phantom of the Opera. Also says, excellent. Like, imagine if somebody spoke that way to your face, You'd be like, oh my God, this guy's a freak,
And this is, some people do bring up a continuity issue with the bed here, where, Dracula makes the bed really fast, but my take on that is he's Dracula, he does anything.
Yeah, well, earlier, I think you see, the door open and shut by itself. Well, if Dracula can make the door, open and shut by itself, he can obviously make the bed sheet go up and down, with his mental powers or whatever.
There he goes.
Yeah, that's great. If you ever see this movie in the theater, I don't know if you ever get a chance to, if they play it in the theater.
Twice I've seen it in the theater, actually.
People laugh out loud when parts like that come on.
Yeah.
And that's this movie is, does have its creepy moments, but, it definitely also has funny parts like that, especially whenever they get close up on Lugosi's eyes.
Lugosi played Dracula on stage,
Right.
1,000 times. He was used to playing Dracula all the time.
I think that has a lot to do with why a lot of the acting is the way it is. A lot of people say that, he's a bit of a ham in this movie and this and that, and say things about his Lugosi's acting in this movie. But, he came this is right off of the silent era, and he had done this, on stage. And the way people act on stage is often quite a bit different than how they act.
Which hurts some of the other performances, but Lugosi, I think, is what is a unique performance. It's just that I couldn't see it any other way.
Yeah,
Yeah. But Lugosi, he says he went into a trance, or at least in Ed Wood, he goes,
right.
When I do Dracula, I put myself into a trance, and it takes me a long time to come out of.
Yeah.
And what do you think is up with this scene here? Because all the women are coming toward him, and then Dracula shoos him away because he's get away from him. It's he's mine.
Well, yeah, he wants to suck his blood or whatever and make him his slave so that he can go to England with him and have I don't know, a slave with him or something. It's the only time in the movie where he goes after a man.
Yeah, it's usually women.
Yeah, it's usually women that he goes after.
He's the pimp of the undead.
Yeah,
But I guess if he wants a man too, whatever. It's like he's Dracula.
Some people say stuff about it being like gay and stuff, but I don't know. He's just he's sucking the blood. I think it's about him wanting to have a slave to do what he needs the slave to do.
Yeah, and I think it's also about like the women in that shot. He's just kind of like saying you can't have them. Because it's like they're like his wives in a way. He doesn't want them with another man. If you read the novel like is sort of like written by like a bunch of different people. Like you're reading like letters and like journal entries and diaries and stuff like that. So I almost feel like when you're watching the movie here, and then all of a sudden it kind of has this weird jumpy like quality where like you're watching like what looks like stock footage because it's from that other movie.
Yeah, pretty much is.
I feel like it kind of goes along with the novel in a weird kind of way because you're looking at it from all these different perspectives, you know.
Actually, Todd Browning wanted Lon Chaney originally for the part of Dracula.
Yeah, Lon Chaney Sr.
But when Chaney died, they had to find another actor. But Lugosi, the reason he got the part, I think, is because he agreed to be paid a very small salary. Anyway, here's one of the funniest parts, that crazy laugh.
Dwight Frye's in a lot of Universal monster movies. He's in just about all the Frankenstein movies. He plays the hunchback assistant Fritz in Frankenstein.
Right. And Lugosi is the one who played Igor. A lot of people get that confused. Igor is actually from Son of Frankenstein.
Yeah, basically it all comes down to Lugosi. The Igor everybody thinks is actually Lugosi, and the Frankenstein that most people imitate is the Lugosi Frankenstein monster. In Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, Bela Lugosi plays the Frankenstein monster, and he's supposed to be blind because he has Igor's brain in that movie, but they cut out all the monster's talking scenes, and you see him walking around with his arms outstretched like he's blind, but with no explanation. And that's the one that people always imitate. So Lugosi, that's 3 roles right there that he,
Yeah.
This movie's kind of about an outsider in a way. It's like Dracula's this weird, eccentric guy who wants to move to London for fresh blood. I mean, he's a stalker, he's a pervert, but it's like after he moves from Transylvania, he's never out of place. Like pretty soon you're going to see him go into this play that's going on, and he really holds power over all the other characters. Like nobody thinks of him as being weird anymore. Lugosi never wanted to be a villain. He wanted to be like the suave hero, but he like just accepted this Dracula thing that happened to him, and he lived his life with it, with being typecast. And
he was probably the most typecast person in history.
Yeah,
seriously, because all he ever was able to do was like horror roles. After this,
took it to the grave very literally because he was buried in the Dracula cape.
They buried him in the cape.
Yeah,
this whole scene that's going on here is like a really strange encounter because basically Dracula's telling these girls that he's moving into like a complete shithole next door.
Yeah,
that's full of like rats and it's falling apart. And usually you would think like a girl would be disgusted by this, but actually this actress just seems to like be turned on. They find him to be like this mysterious, like interesting guy, and he's saying things like "to be dead, to be really dead, that must be glorious," and they're like not like what the fuck is he talking about? To be dead. Like if you were a chick, like would you be like what?
Really, like
they're like, ooh, who's this sexy like mysterious guy? And he's standing there like, "To be dead is glorious," Oh, by the way, I like the lighting here. That kind of looks like a bat in the background on the wall.
You never do see Dracula's fangs, and
no.
It's funny how like in the Wolfman you never see a shot of the full moon, and you never see the Wolfman actually transform. Like you never see him at his face. You see him transform into a wolf. You see like his feet at times. Other times you see him turn back into a wolf. But it's funny how the cliches that you mostly hold in your head don't actually happen in the movies. Like he never says, "I'm going to suck your blood."
Right.
I always thought, what's up with these people in the background? Like all those people sitting there. They're like, I always thought they were fake because they're like none of them are moving at all.
Like look at that one guy. He looks like he's falling asleep.
Second to the right. One of the things in the novel, I read the novel many years ago. It was like I was quite young when I read it, but from memory, Renfield was actually trying to feed. He's trying to feed a fly to a spider, and then a spider to a dove or something, and then he's trying to feed that to a cat. So he's trying to make like a chain, almost like a food chain. So in this movie, they don't really explain that, but they do sort of mention it right there. Like he's now he's interested in spiders when before he was interested in flies.
Here's Edward Van Sloan, by the way.
Yeah.
Just made his introduction here, and of course they have him like with the beakers and the scientist outfit. Is very, very cliched. Obviously, you know right from the bat. You don't need to know anything about him. Obviously, he's a scientist. You know.
He was also in the play with Lugosi in the Broadway show.
That's right.
Like everything he says is very deliberate. Mm-hmm. Like he really like kind of baby talking to everybody in the movie, like teaching them about vampires. But in the sequel, Dracula's Daughter, Edward Van Sloan is actually much better. I almost said Edward Van Helsing. One interesting thing about Dwight Frye that I've heard is that he worked as a tool designer for aircrafts in World War II. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
That is interesting. I didn't know
this nutcase worked on.
Well, he is an actor, James. But that's like, see, that's how good of an actor he is that you think that he's really a nutcase.
Yeah, but he actually
that's a scary thought to think that he was working on that kind of stuff.
It's I always felt that they have too many ways to kill a vampire. Like, it's just, there's the cross, there's like the garlic that.
And that's another thing. They don't even use garlic in this movie. That's why they use the wolf. Maybe they thought garlic was too ridiculous or something. Like, ooh, he's gonna get the garlic, They do use the garlic in the Monster Squad, though. Like,
and in the Hammer films, they even say that running water can kill a vampire. It's like, come on, if water can kill a vampire, they're pretty. So it's like, okay, we got sunlight, water. Those are two things that are...
yeah, sunlight and water.
Then garlic, wolfbane.
That was the infamous piece of cardboard on the lamp right there.
Yeah, you see at the bottom right, the cardboard?
Like, was that a mistake or was it intentional, do you think?
I like this living room for some reason. It feels that anybody can just walk in there. Because you see, like, Dracula comes in.
Right, he just walks in. Like, how about, like, ringing the doorbell or anything, Like, Renfield, like, later is, like, supposed to be all, like, tied up or like, in his room. And he just keeps coming. He just keeps walking in.
He just keeps walking. It's like,
he's supposed to be, like, chained up and stuff.
Renfield, weren't you supposed to be in your jail cell or whatever? Yeah, as some other supplements where you can get a lot of info on this, on the DVD, if you have the Legacy Collection, it has a commentary by a film historian, David J. Scaw, and it's really good. There's a book, Universal Horrors, which is by Tom Weaver, Michael Brunis, and John Brunis, which is a great book about all the Universal monster movies.
When Lugosi came to the States, he had to learn the English language, and he came to the United States in 1921, and this movie came out in 1931, so that was an entire decade he had living in the United States, and he knew the language by this point, but no matter what film he was in, he always had that, like, thick accent, like in The Phantom of Creeps or something, you can always just hear that thick Lugosi accent. So when you see him in other movies, it's really hard to think of him as anything else but Dracula. But,
Personally, I think my favorite role that Lugosi played was Dr. Valen in The Raven.
That was great. That's one of my favorites, absolutely.
He is just nuts in that movie.
That's one example of what I would definitely say. You know what? Anybody who says something about, I love Karloff. I have to say I love Karloff. But that's one occasion where I think Lugosi shows that he could be a better actor, or at least on par with Karloff.
Yeah, I mean, there are movies where they have Karloff and Lugosi in it, and where Karloff upstages Lugosi.
Absolutely.
But there's also times where Lugosi upstages Karloff.
They both have their good movies and their bad movies.
Yeah. Oh, and if you watch the Spanish version in this scene, Carlos Villarreal, he goes crazy.
Yeah.
Like the look on his face when he looks at the mirror.
He shatters the mirror with a cane or something.
I love that look right there. Yeah. It's just like, you know what? It's on now. It's like now they're...
Okay, he's like, yeah, you know who I am? Yeah, all right, fuck you. You're like, it's on now. Yeah. Like, you're gonna get it now. I'm gonna turn into a friggin' wolf. I'm gonna...
Yeah, he does. They say they see the wolf run across the lawn, which is another thing that a lot of people forget, that Dracula could turn into a wolf. He could turn into a mist.
He can do anything. In the Bram Stoker version, he turns into a bunch of rats, I believe, at one point, and then breaks apart.
Oh, yeah,
He can basically turn into anything, I guess.
And this is another scene where Dwight Frye comes in and just walks into the scene and steals the scene. You know
exactly.
They called him Man with the 1,000-watt stare. Is that a great name?
I didn't know that. This is the part where he says, "Dracula, I've never heard the name." That's actually probably, I think, the funniest part of the entire movie. I remember seeing that in the theater, and everybody just started, like, cracking up, like, laughing.
So he's crawling toward her, and then it cuts away, so you never see what happens. if you watch the Spanish version, he grabs at the air like he just caught a fly.
Yeah.
So I guess he was like, he wasn't after the maid, he was after an invisible fly or something.
That Renfield is great too, by the way.
He is, yeah. Is that like a shopping cart he's sitting in? Like,
yeah, really. This is supposedly due to the studio wanting to speed along production.
Wait, it is. It's like a shopping cart with a Dixie cup on the bottom of the.
Where do you see a Dixie cup?
Like right there.
I see.
Nobody's gonna know what I'm talking about.
And you know this guy here who plays Jonathan Harker, David Manners. He said that he's never even actually watched this movie. Like he felt like it was beneath him or something. He probably like wanted to be like the next Clark Gable or something like that, and he seemed to be like really like resentful that he was like even in this movie.
What I really like about this movie overall, like, I mean, yeah, there's some funny things, and we like Lugosi and we talk about him all the time, but I think it's really that the movie has this lucid dream quality to it, that when you're watching the movie, you almost feel like you're sleepwalking. It's the kind of movie you have to watch late at night in the glow of the TV in a dark room. You know, it just has this like very eerie atmosphere to it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's unique. Like even movies that try to do that don't succeed as much as Dracula.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it has a lot to do with its flaws. Like if you know the flaws weren't there, like if there wasn't a lack of music and all these weird edits.
Do you think that the
like,
lack of music is a flaw?
No, it's not, but it obviously seemed like it wasn't that intentional. Like, they didn't really say, like, we're gonna not have music to make it creepy. They didn't have music just because they didn't, like, think to have it, because it was, like, you know...
It was more accepted
early,
back
like,
then, because it was coming right off of the silent era.
Like, even Frankenstein, which was the next movie, that one doesn't have any music, but there's a lot of noise in that one, too.
He's out again.
Yeah. Frankenstein's got a lot of thunder in the background. You know, it's like you see color in this scene almost when he talks about the fire and like the red.
Their eyes.
Yeah. Like when you think Dracula, you think blood, you think red.
Mm-hmm.
And the novel is very gory. Like I almost feel like the pages of the novel itself are just dripping with blood because it's just the way the novel describes stuff. It's like almost disgusting at times. But the movie, you kind of have to imagine that part of it.
Well, because of budget cuts, this is a part that they didn't film. Or they didn't actually show, like, the rats. And they also had that whole issue with not being able to show rats. So I guess that's why they actually just had Renfield just speak about it. Because this is definitely one of the best scenes in the movie.
You just had that great monologue by Dwight Fry, and now you got...
I like that there's no dialogue in the part where Dracula's, like, trying to pull Van Helsing towards him. And you can just see in Van Helsing that he's resisting, like, the urge. Because he has the... mental power to be able to do it. Like everybody else that Dracula has used his hypnotizing powers on has just fallen under his spell, but not Van Helsing. I think this part's funny when he's just like, "Come here," because you would think he would say something a little more menacing than that. "Come here, get over here." What is he like? Scorpion? Get over here. Here's Van Helsing talking to Stewart again. A bunch of stuff to explain to the audience, basically.
You know, I like Martin better than Dr. Seward.
Yeah.
You know,
oh my god! Of course, Martin. I think is great. Spiders again, is it?
And the bats are definitely very like comical and cheesy looking.
You can tell it's like on a string and stuff.
But I think it's even more comical in the Hammer films when they have like if you watch Scars of Dracula, the very first thing you see in the movie is like this very fake looking bat spitting blood. It's funny that a movie that much newer than this would still have a very cheap-looking bat.
You know, and I guess to some people, we're just going on and on about this, and it probably seems like we know so much about this. But you know, I'm just wondering if like there's anybody.
Cardboard again.
Yeah, if anybody like who's even more of a horror junkie than we are knows who the guy is who controlled that bat on the string. There's probably somebody who knows that out there.
Maybe John P. Fulton, I think. Actually. Yeah, was he the special effects guy on this one? I would imagine.
You know who it is?
Well, I'm only guessing because.
Oh, there's Lugosi, by the way, and see how he doesn't blink?
Yeah, he never does.
Yeah, he never even blinks at any point. And by the way, why would Dracula get pissed off that Renfield led them there?
Yeah, he's just strict. He's Dracula. Like, you don't fuck around with him. It's like he doesn't take any shit.
Like they know that he lives in that abbey.
Yeah, they know he lives there, and plus it's, you know. And anyway, originally the scream sound effects. There's two sound effects that were cut out of this movie. There's the scream when Dracula kills Renfield here, and then there's the scream you hear from Dracula when he's getting staked. And I guess they decided that that was too violent or whatever, so they removed the screams from the movie. And at some time, I guess they restored it on the Laserdisc and on the VHS.
Yeah, this version we're watching right here actually doesn't have...
Yeah.
You would think this would be this is supposed to be like the ultimate version, but it doesn't even have the screens.
Yeah, the DVD...
The commentary track has the screens.
Yeah. The DVD Legacy Collection does not restore the screams, so there's no screams.
Somebody screwed up.
If you turn on the commentary, you hear the screams in the background of the commentary track.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you know what I find funny is that the Abbey basement that they're in right now, which is in London, looks exactly like the basement in Dracula's castle, which is in Transylvania.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like the same place they probably filmed, but it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, you know what I think is that, in a way, I almost feel like there were some missing scenes that we should have seen them go back to Transylvania.
Yeah.
Because in the novel, they go back to Transylvania at the end. Like, Dracula moves back. And here, he doesn't, but also you never see an exterior shot of Carfax Abbey. Although in the Spanish version, once again, you do see an exterior of the
Well, there was
Abbey.
a shot earlier where they were like...
Oh, if you count when they're outside and they're like going... Yeah, but in the Spanish version, you actually see the structure. Like, you see like a miniature of the Abbey. Another thing, they kill Dracula with a stake. And, of course, this is where you're going to hear, like, the scream or not.
Right.
But which I thought was confusing, because if you don't hear the scream, how are you supposed to know what the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
But anyway...
Well, what happens in the book?
Well, in the book, they're chasing Dracula back to Transylvania or whatever, and then he gets slashed through the neck and through the heart by the knives of Jonathan Harker and Quincy Morris. So Van Helsing in the book doesn't even kill Dracula. It's Jonathan Harker and Quincy Morris.
Right.
And it's not even it's not like, a stake or sunlight or anything like that. It's just like knives. So there you go. I think to get the full effect, you gotta watch it late at night by yourself sometime.
Yeah, I would actually say this is a movie that you gotta watch by yourself. Like, you turn the lights off, and I could definitely understand watching the movie and if you're not in the mood to watch it, you might not enjoy it. But if you are in the mood and you watch it on the in the right mood, I think that this movie is one of the greats.
Yeah, and if you have enough interest to watch it again and again, it improves with repeated viewings. I always tend to notice something else, or it's just it's a good one, and it's the start of a great franchise of Universal monster movies.
All those classic monster movies probably never would have happened. So in a way, you can pretty much chalk up horror's existence on film to this movie, and whether or not you like this movie or not, whether or not you think what you think about Bela Lugosi's acting and all that, this movie was a success, and it is very important to the horror genre.
Oh yeah, I mean, undoubtedly the historical significance is very high.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the first Universal horror, if you want to count Phantom of the Opera.
Well, I hope you're interested enough, at least to watch the movie. If you made it all the way to the end of this commentary, I would hope that you would at least check the movie out. Not with our commentary, but watch the movie on your own sometime. I hope you enjoy it.
Yep. Pleasant dreams. Beware of Dracula. And of Count Chocula.
And the Count from Sesame Street.